Frogbitblog.
Ja, guten Morgen und willkommen zu Episode 59 auf der Frogbitblog-Podcast. Es ist total schön. Ja, total schön. In this week's episode, I'm obviously going to cover the climate strikes that's happened this week, plus grumpy spiders, an amazing fungus that I found in the woods. Mary is popping in just to prove I've not kidnapped her. Some of the usual features, and no Len again, as he's moving house and is, in inverted commas, too busy to come on your crappy little show. Well, listen on. Right, first things first, corrections and apologies. I've not done one of these for a while. For the eagle-eyed amongst you. Actually, should that be the eagle-eared amongst you? Actually, is there a listening equivalent to eagle-eyed? Because obviously it's eagle-eyed because eagles have good eyesight. Is there a listening equivalent for, like, dog-eared, you know, because dogs have good ear sight? Or is it ear sound? Anyway, but dog-eared means something else, doesn't it? Anyway, I forgot where I was now. But anyway, for those eagle-eared amongst you, remember I was talking last week about how Singaporeans used to see the moon as a goddess, and then the Americans landed on it and it stopped being sacred. Well, I did actually say it was 1968, when of course we all know it was 69 because it was the anniversary this year. Anyway, it just proves how I'm ad-libbing it all, isn't it? Anyway, I do apologise if I upset you with my space-related inaccuracy, especially if you were Singaporean, because that would have meant you had one less year of moon sacredness. So sorry about that. Mary's just told me, this is interesting, that this woman who grew up in Singapore in the 60s was told as a child that you were never allowed to point at the moon because of its sacredness. So they couldn't point to the moon back then. How amazing. Right, and happy birthday, James Lovelock. That's the bloke that wrote the Gaia novel in the 60s. Well, he's 100 years old, believe it or not, and he still looks as fit as a fiddle. I'm not sure how fit fiddles are, to be fair, compared to, say, other string instruments. Are fiddles fitter than ukuleles? Write in if you know the answer, please, because I'm not sure. Anyway, back to Mr. Lovelock. This is what it says. James Lovelock has a lot to celebrate. The renowned British futurist and environmentalist just enjoyed a 100th birthday party with his wife and friends, so she must be pretty old as well. Over his long career, he has seen his once controversial Gaia hypothesis steadily gain significant acceptance among his colleagues. And capping all that, he has just published Novacine, a book that predicts the impending end of the world. Oh, great. But does so in a gently, almost loving style. Lovelock may be the happiest pessimist I've ever spoke to. And basically, it's about A1 AI taking all over the world and killing us all. So thanks, James. This is his honesty, though. Asked why he'd written a book at his age. This is what he said. To be completely honest, to some extent, I wrote the book to help our survival as a family. Mumley doesn't grow on trees. You have to work, and I'm one of those who keeps working regardless of age. So there you go. If you've not read it, Gaia's well worth a read as well. So happy birthday, James.
The Frogbitblog.
You know how one of the arguments of why we can't rewild and have wolves and bears and stuff in this country, in England and Britain, is like, oh, well, they might attack people and all that kind of thing. We can't have them roaming around. Well, what about the cows? It seems like we're allowed to have cows for meat, but they are really dangerous and they kill a lot of people every year. And there was an article this week, the death of an 87-year-old woman killed by a herd of cattle must lead to greater awareness of the danger these animals can pose, a coroner has said. Hilary Adair was knocked to the ground by belted Galloway cattle at a countryside beauty spot and repeatedly attacked as she tried to get up. She was airlifted to hospital from Lynchmere Common near Chichester, but never regained consciousness and died a week later. An inquest into her death took place in Crawley on Friday. Her daughter, Susan Beresford, said that had her mother known the cows had been spooked the day before, she would not have gone to the common, because the incident came a day after a couple and their dog were chased and injured by the same animals, leaving the husband covered in blood. And there you go. But because cows are a commercial product that farmers make money from, they're just allowed to roam wild and kill people. How very, very sad. Anyway, so beware of the cows. They're coming to get you.
Mother Earth, her name is Gaia. The temperature is getting
That's Mother Earth. Her name is Gaia, and she's been getting some help and some hope from some inspiring and inspirational young people this week, hasn't she? And with the help of a support of a few of us oldies. What a momentous week it's been. If you think the story, in August 2018, a 15-year-old girl started a lone climate strike outside Swedish Parliament. And a year later, she's inspired a whole new generation of climate protesters with their Fridays for Future marches, culminating in this week's climate strike across the world. I mean, what an incredible story of the power of one. And this is what it says in one of the articles I read. From the small, sun-drenched inner Hebridean island of Iona to the packed streets of land in central London, parents and grandparents, children and trade unionists have stepped out of their Friday routines to tell their political leaders time is running out to tackle the climate crisis. Organisers said it was the biggest ever environmental protest the UK has seen, with some 300 to 350,000 people taking part, including more than 100,000 people in London and tens of thousands more in towns and cities from Edinburgh to Bristol, Leeds to Brighton, Bradford to Cambridge. There were more than 200 demonstrations across the UK. Jake Woodier, who campaigns for the Student Climate Work, said, and it said it marked a turning point in the fight to tackle the climate crisis. Millions of people across the globe and hundreds of thousands across the UK have sent a clear message about the need for urgent climate action, he said. Up in Newcastle, it was a decent turnout, and it was great to see all these young pupils in uniform with their banners and chants. It was very inspiring. Well, not only as Greta Thunberg, it's taken me nearly a year to get her name right. I used to call her Greta Thunberg, but because I'd not heard anyone speak about her name. But I actually think it's Greta Thunberg, though apparently in America they're calling her Greta Thunberg for some reason. Not only she started it, but she's also been in Congress this week, giving it to those climate-denying dinosaurs who sound just like children. Why should we do something about it? It's all China's fault. It's not fair. But the great thing is about her that she's not trying to be a celebrity, and she just says, listen, she doesn't, she just keeps saying, listen to the science, not listen to me. I'm the important one, which is absolutely wonderful that she's got her feet totally on the ground. And I'm going to play a clip of the speech that she did at the climate rally in New York.
This Monday, world leaders are going to be gathered here in New York City for the United Nations Climate Action Summit. The eyes of the world will be on them. They have a chance to prove that they, too, are united behind the science. They have a chance to take leadership, to prove they actually hear us. Do you think they hear us? We will make them hear us. We have not taken to the streets, sacrificing our education for the adults and politicians to take selfies with us and tell us that they really, really admire what we do. We are doing this to wake the leaders up. We are doing this to get them to act. We deserve a safe future. And we demand a safe future. Is that really too much to ask? We are not just some young people skipping school or some adults who are not going to work. We are a wave of change. Together and united, we are unstoppable. We will rise to the challenge. We will hold those who are the most responsible for this crisis accountable, and we will make the world leaders act. We can and we will. And if you belong to that small group of people who feel threatened by us, then we have some very bad news for you. Because this is only the beginning.
Not only that, but this is what she said at a conference that she did with Naomi Klein. It says here, during an event in New York City Monday night with author and environmentalist Naomi Klein, 16-year-old Swedish activist Greta Thunberg had a simple message for those who claimed it is too expensive to boldly confront the climate crisis with sweeping policies like the Green New Deal. If we can save the banks, we can save the world. If there's something we are not lacking in this world, it's money, she said. Of course, many people do lack money, but governments and these people in power, they do not lack money. And also, we need to have the polluters actually pay for the damage they have caused. So to that argument, I would not even respond to that argument because it has been said so many times, the money is there. What we lack now is political will and social will to do it. How spot on is that? She's so prescient, isn't she? She's so aware. We can afford to do it. We can't afford not to do it. So go, Greta. Maybe there is hope for the world. Let's hope that the world isn't going to be on fire.
She's on fire. Her name is Gaia. She's on fire.
Right. Well, not only is climate change completely about to destroy life on Earth unless we do something about it, but it's also going to create grumpy spiders, apparently, as if we haven't got enough problems. This is what it says. Is what the headline says. The effects of climate change might make spiders angry, according to new study. Well, yeah, I'd be pissed off too. In fact, I am pissed off, but let's carry on. A heating climate may or may not increase the frequency of tropical storms, but it will probably make them more intense. Scientists are also predicting an increase in what are called black swan weather events, so named because they are unprecedented in their ferocity. Don't go picking on the swans. Anyway. And it turns out that when it comes to some social spiders, the more aggressive ones are the ones likely to survive tempestuous weather and therefore pass on their traits to new generations. And it goes on to say, the particular spider pudding, what the hell are they on about? In which this proof can be found is an arachnid called Anemosis studiosus. All right, so the spider pudding, the proof in this pudding and all that. But you eat puddings, you don't eat spiders, do you? Anyway, they live across North and South America, including the Gulf and East Coasts, which are racked by tropical cyclones between May and November. Typically, these spiders live in colonies in three-dimensional tangled webs. Ooh, up to a few hundred females can live in these webs overhanging bodies of waters. But they are not happy little spiders peacefully sharing the same space. Oh no, the species displays two distinct behavioral phenotypes. Some of the spiders are more tolerant and relatively placid. I'd be one of them. While the others are more aggressive. Not me. These can live side by side in the same colony. The more aggressive spiders in the colony, the more aggressive overall the colony is, and this aggression is heritable. More aggressive spiders are faster to respond to both predators and prey, but they're also more likely to attack their own kind and cannibalize their own eggs and the males of the species. What's going on there? So they're better at fending for themselves when trouble hits the fan. The researchers note mother spiders may be too busy trying to find food and protect their resources to invest time in maternal care, forcing their youngsters to develop hardcore survival skills. So they're like latchkey kid spiders, aren't they? So in a way, humans could well be creating an angry spider-copocalypse. We brought this on our own heads. Well, bloody hell, a spider apocalypse or spider-copocalypse, whatever it is. We have been warned there might be a spider-apocalypse coming. Right, well, if you listen to this show from the early days, you'll know I'm into me mushrooms and fungus and all that mycorrhizal stuff. Because a couple of years ago, I saw a TED talk by the amazing scientist Suzanne Simard, and she discovered all about the mycorrhizal network and how trees use it to feed their young and send nutrients to other trees who are in need and all that stuff. And then I also went on to talk about how mushrooms, I found this out, are just the visible tips of the mycorrhizal network. So, in fact, they are the fruiting bodies. They're the sex organs of the mycorrhizal network, hence why they look a bit like men's bits. In fact, I mentioned it when I sang my theme tune.
Mycorrhizal cowboy.
Yeah, I learnt all about it from a TED Talk video. A mycorrhizal cowboy, picking fungus and toadstools to cook at home on me hob, and mushrooms that look like a knob.
And it's that time of year again. And this week I was wandering through the woods with the dogs, and I saw these big white flat fungi on a birch tree, and I've noticed them before, but I thought I'd take one home and see if they were edible. In fact, they are edible, but they're called birch polypers. Yep, polyp with the ERS on the end. And they only grow on dead or dying birch trees. Now, they're edible, but they're a bit bitter. But it turns out they're pretty amazing things. So I'm currently drying one out. And after I've sliced it up, I'm going to dry it completely, grind it into a powder and use it in cooking because it's an amazingly beneficial fungus. So listen on, this is what it says. I was quite amazed. It has long been known that the birch polypore has medicinal uses. It has been used as a tonic for the immune system, as an antiseptic to clean wounds and promote healing, a plaster that is microporous, antifungal and antiseptic, and probably was used by Bronze Age man and woman to get rid of parasitic worms. In 1991, Austrian hikers in the Tyrol of the region of the Alps, the Italian Alps, discovered a frozen corpse. When this was later examined and turned out to be the 5,300-year-old mummy that they named Ötzi, remember him? Wasn't he a DJ? He did that awful song that went, "Hey, baby, ooh, I want to know." Though, to be fair, it's probably not the same Ötzi. Anyway, Ötzi had some birch polypore and a leather thong around his neck. And he also had a parasitic intestinal worm called whipworm, which can be cured with polyplinic acid, which is one of the chemicals present in birch polypore. Yeah. Another possible use of the fungus by Bronze Age man was its very good tinder that can be started with a weak spark or used to transport fire, as the fungus can smoulder for a long time and can be used to take to the next camp or destination and get a fire lit quickly. Hey, how about that? But that's just the start of it. Listen on. With modern research, it is becoming clear that the birch polypore is an important mushroom to look into. Tests have been carried out and so far found the following. It's antiviral. In test extracts from the birch polypore blocked reproduction in HIV cells, attacked and incapacitated encephalitis infections, and has proved positive in treating flu, yellow fever and West Nile flu. So I'm definitely not going to catch West Nile flu here in Newcastle, which is always good to know. It's antibiotic too. The birch polypore contains an antibiotic piptamine, which has been used to treat E. coli. It's also anti-inflammatory. There are several tritopene acids present, and these are known anti-inflammatories. It's anti-tumour. Betulinic acid and other chemicals in the fungi have been shown to cause apoptosis, the destruction of cancer cells, while not affecting healthy cells. It's an antiseptic for cleaning wounds and being an aid to healing. It's antifungal because it doesn't like to share its habitat with other mushrooms and contains some powerful antifungals. It's styptic. The fungus has styptic properties, which means it staunches bleeding. Its very beneficial effects on the immune system. Many people drink a tea made from the fresh or dried fungi and swear by its positive effects. Not only that, but a plaster can be made from the underside of the mushroom. A strip needs to be cut and carefully removed from the pore membrane. This provides a microporous, antifungal, antiseptic and self-sticking plaster, much better than can be purchased from the shops. So instead of purchasing plasters from the shops, get in touch with me on the Frogbit Blog podcast and I'll send you some birch polypore. The common name razor strop fungus comes from the use in old barber shops of cutting a strip from the underside, drying it and sticking it to a piece of flat wood. This was used to give the final finish to the cutthroat razors barbers used. I'm not sure if they were aware of the fact, but also doing so, they were giving their blades an antiseptic and antifungal and styptic wipe. And it's also been used in the past as a very fine emery cloth to polish metals, making ink blotters and even bases for mounting insect. Oh, I'm not going to read that one. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. I'm going to start having it regularly. So if this is the last episode and you never hear from me again, you can probably guess that I've eaten the wrong fungus. But anyway, if I do, you know what my funeral song's going to be, don't you? It's going to have to be
mycorrhizal cowboy. Yeah, I learned all about it from a TED Talk video.
All right, mate, you got the ecstasy?
Sure have. You got the cocaine and the meth? Okay, let's get these ashore and hide them under some seaweed where no one will ever find them.
It's bloody heavy. How much we got?
Just over a ton.
A ton? Bloody hell. We're going to have to find a lot of seaweed.
Oh, there's some. Quick, let's hide these drugs before the police get on to us. Oh no, it's the cops. Hide the stash and run like bloody hell. Okay, come on.
Oh no, there's a fucking big seal in the way. It's so big, we're never gonna get round it. Okay, stop what you're doing and put your hands up. You're under arrest.
Bloody hell, if it hadn't been for that pesky seal, we'd have got clean good away with it, we would have.
Yes, I talk about drugs and I talk about animals, and sometimes they happen to be in the same article. Here's one of those occasions, so listen on. 3 more men have been charged over a massive 1 billion drug haul found on a tiny island off Western Australia after a yacht ran aground and was abandoned, sparking the search for its occupants. Police launched a range on Burton Island off the port town in Geraldton last week, finding 3 men allegedly with over a ton of meth, cocaine and ecstasy in dozens of bags they had attempted to hide under seaweed. They allegedly tried to flee but were thwarted when a huge seal blocked their path, police said. The pair were charged last week with importing a commercial quantity of border-controlled drug. Hang on, a huge seal blocked their path. How big was the bloody seal and how small was the path? Could they not just run around it if you're going to spend years in prison? What a strange story, eh?
The Frogbitblog.
Won't somebody please think of the flowers? You know that they have feelings just like ours.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the flowers? Or this week, more precisely, won't somebody please think of the vegetables because they get treated really bad? This week, I'm talking about farming, sustainable farming. Because as you'll know, I have access to Netflix and I've been watching lots of programs recently. I don't pay for it. My daughter's got a Netflix account and you have about 4 or 5 free accounts with it. So I've got one. So I've been watching loads of documentaries. And this week, I watched one called Sustainable. And it follows a group of farmers in Illinois, I can't even say it, Illinois, that are doing good things and reverting to regenerative agriculture, stopping monocultures and growing food that's beneficial to the land, the environment, and as it turns out, the farmers. And it's brought the community together well, which is it's going to be a good thing. And they've done this by enlisting the help of local restaurants and chefs who are willing to buy locally produced organic food, because ultimately for this small scale organic and regenerative agriculture to work, it's got to have a market, a market there for it to be able to compete with agribusiness. And not only are the restaurants involved, but the whole farming community now has got together. It started with one person and it's spreading, and the whole farming community has got together, and it's great to see. And it's a wonderfully inspiring documentary. And they put on food tasting events that the whole community come to and special events to get the rest of the community involved. And it seems to be working. So if you do have Netflix, have a watch because it is very inspiring and uplifting, and it's called Sustainable. Because, farming is so important for to get it right for us and for us to have a sustainable future. And you hear people say, but people are demanding cheap food. But you know what? There's no such thing as cheap food, is there? We may be able to buy it cheaply, but we end up paying for it in other ways that we have to give our taxes to sort out toxic algae blooms and all that kind of stuff caused by agribusiness methods. And if we actually factored in the environmental costs of cheap food, it's not cheap at all. And once again, the ordinary person has to subsidise it. And us and future generations especially will be the ones who end up paying for the cost of our inverted commas cheap food. So the next time you hear someone go, yeah, but you demand cheap food, tell them it's not cheap. We all pay a premium in the long run. And as a recent report shows, we all pay to subsidise farming. Listen to this. The public is providing more than $1 million a minute in global farming subsidies, much of which is driving the climate crisis and destruction of wildlife, according to a new report. Just 1% of the $700 billion, which is £560 billion a year, given to farmers is used to benefit the environment. 1% is used to benefit the environment, the analysis found. Much of the total instead promotes high emission cattle production, forest destruction and pollution from the overuse of fertilizers. That's 1% given to good farming practices and $1 million a minute for planet destroying policies that give us, an inverted commas, cheap food. It's a con, isn't it? It's socialism for the rich once again. Anyway, so please, won't somebody please think of the vegetables?
Won't somebody please think of the flowers? You know that they have feelings just like ours. Is it okay to talk about drugs? Is it okay? Gonna do it anyway.
Yes, in that mad world where CBD oil is meant to be now available for sufferers, but they can't actually get any. Here's a depressing story. The mother of a woman with severe epilepsy has to put her house up for sale after spending her family's savings on private prescriptions for medical cannabis. Elaine Levy, the mother of 25-year-old Fallon, who has Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, she has said that she's been forced to sell up in an attempt to fund her daughter's care after spending more than £30,000. We just can't do it anymore, she said. It's been a year and 3 months, but we've got less than a month's medicine left, and now we're at the end of the road. Why am I having to beg when it was made legal in November? She says her daughter no longer needed a wheelchair after using full extract cannabis oil after taking years of taking sedatives. Her IQ has gone up and she now tells me where to go. Oh, it's not a cure, but the result is phenomenal. The result is phenomenal. On Thursday, 9 families supported by the campaign group End Our Pain invoiced the Department of Health and Social Care for the £231,000 they have cumulatively spent on prescriptions. They then walked down Whitehall and delivered letters, including one signed by more than 100 MPs, to the Prime Minister, urging him to personally intervene. Outside Downing Street, parents chanted, "Medical cannabis stops our children's seizures." That's a sort of a nifty chant. I wonder how they sang that. Medical cannabis stops our children's seizures. And then they said they'd save the NHS money at their own cost. By us not calling ambulances, having stays in hospitals and being prescribed anti-seizure medicines, we must have collectively saved the health service thousands. Yeah, the health service has not issued a single prescription for full extract cannabis oil since the Home Office acted to resolve several high-profile cases last year. Medicines are available privately, and there's been at least 100 prescriptions which cost up to £4,000 a month. Listen to this. A watchdog rules last month there was not yet enough evidence to prove medical cannabis can help those with severe epilepsy. Yeah, there's no evidence apart from those that it's so obviously helping and it works for, is there? Jesus, you let us take all these sort of prescription drugs with known toxic side effects, but you won't let families alleviate the suffering of their children. What a mad world we live in.
Is it okay to talk about drugs? No. Is it okay? Gonna do it anyway.
Paddy and Mary's make do and mend. Paddy and Mary's make do and mend. Make do and mend.
Right, well, we've not heard from our Mary for ages, and people are actually starting to wonder if I've got locked in the basement. And just to prove that I haven't, I wanted to say a quick hello. Well, hello, Mary. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Paddy.
What you been up to?
Well, very little since you locked me in the basement. Listeners, he keeps locking me in the basement and making me listen to old episodes of the Frogbitblog podcast. Someone, please come and rescue me.
Very funny, Mary. But have you got any make, do and mend tips?
Well, you've said I'm mental and you've got control of the bank account, so I have to make do and mend, don't I?
Very funny, Mary. They'll start to think you're serious.
I am, listeners. Anyway, my make do and mend tip this week is don't buy anything if you haven't got any money. That way you save money.
Look, I give you £1 a week pocket money. What more do you want?
My freedom. You feckin' idiot.
Well, I think that's enough of that. That was this week's episode of
Paddy and Mary's make do and mend. Paddy and Mary's make do and mend. Make do and mend. Make do and mend.
Right, well, I think that'll do for this week. Thank you very much once again for listening. Thanks for being busy, Len. And Mark is not quite set off on his journey around the world yet, so it's going to be a few weeks before I have him being a roving reporter. And where's he going to? Thailand first, isn't he? He's going to talk with the elephants and come on. This will be available on YouTube soon when I can be bothered. Thanks for listening. Have a great fortnight and I will speak to you soon. Bye!
Frogbitblog. Frogbitblog. The Frogbitblog.